Good morning. I welcome you again to our Indian Polity session. First of all, my warm wishes to you all, and I wish you a very, very happy and great, successful New Year 2015. Whatever may be your wishes, may all the wishes will be fulfilled this time in this year. Let's start the session. So we are talking about the powers of the President of India, and we have seen yesterday regarding executive powers followed by the judicial powers. There are so many other powers. We'll have a discussion. Let me open the document for you and we'll have a discussion accordingly. Look at this. So now I'm talking to you regarding the financial powers of the president. What do you mean by this financial again? So these are the certain issues that are related to the money. Look at these points, certain points we already know. The money bills are introduced in the Lok Sabha with the prior permission of the president. We know this point already. So this is one of the financial powers of the President of India. In the similar manner, the so-called annual financial statement, that is the budget. The budget is laid in the sense placed. The budget is laid before the Lok Sabha with the prior permission of the President only. We have discussed already, budget is nothing but a money bill. All money bills are placed only in the Lok Sabha first, and that too with the prior permission of the President. Now, so when it comes to point number 3, look at this. The President can make advances out of the contingency fund of India to meet any unforeseen expenditure. Please read the statement once again. The President can make advances out of the contingency fund of India to meet any unforeseen expenditure. What is the meaning of this? Let me tell you. The Constitution has given contingency fund of India in article number 267. But what do you mean by this fund? Whenever we are using the word fund here, this is an account that is maintained by the government in the RBI. There may be so many accounts, and one of the accounts is the contingency fund of India. The meaning of the contingency is nothing but the emergency. So whenever there is an emergency situation, during that time, the President has the power to release the money from this contingency fund. But what do you mean by this emergency or the unforeseen expenditure? See, sometimes some of the areas in the country so may be affected by cyclones, earthquakes, fire accidents, tsunamis, or other calamities. So during the time, the government may not have the money immediately to spend this. Kindly remember, the government has to spend the money. If the government is not spending the money, the people will suffer like anything. But for the purpose of this, to meet unforeseen expenditure, separate allocation of the funds is not there. As and when the situation is demanding, you need to face the situation. That's the reason why a separate fund was created, and that fund is kept under the control of the President of India, and that fund is called Contingency Fund of India. And there is always a fixed amount in that one. Depending on the necessity, depending on the situation, the President will be drawing the money from that, and he will be spending the money for the rescue operations and also the restoration of the normalcy. But kindly remember, the President is not doing all these things again on his own. The government will give will provide the total support. Hence, the Finance Minister will be assisting the President of India in drawing the money from the Contingency Fund of India. Am I clear? That is the meaning of this. And whenever we talk about the budget, or whenever we come to Article 267, we'll have more discussion regarding the Contingency Fund of India. Kindly remember, the name itself is indicating it is a contingency fund. It is an emergency fund for the government of India. Similarly, the same article also provided that each state can have its own contingency fund of the state. Because India is a federation, because we have two governments, that's the reason why there are two contingency funds also. And all the contingency funds are maintained by RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India. Now, I'll move further. Let me open the document again. Look at this. The President constitutes the Finance Commission under Article number 280 of the Indian Constitution. And this Finance Commission is constituted by the President of India every 5 years. Kindly remember, this is the important point. And I want you to remember the article number also. So very frequently, this article will come into the news. Now, what exactly is the meaning of this? For example, see, so today also there is a Finance Commission, and the number of the Finance Commission is the 14th Finance Commission. Meaning the Constitution is permitting the President of India to constitute a Finance Commission every 5 years. And this is what is mentioned under Article number 280. But what is the basic purpose of the Finance Commission? The Finance Commission will always recommend for the division of the taxes between central government and state governments. You must be knowing, when compared to the central government, state governments are really poor. Their collection of revenue is poor. Their geographical area is also small. The amount of money that is generated in the form of the taxes is also very low when compared to the central government. That is the reason Constitution expects that the central government will play a role like a big brother. Big brother in the sense, whenever the situation is demanding, you please take care of the states. That is the reason why even today also, irrespective of the political party that is present at the state level, they will seek the support from the central government. And this is the time where the Finance Commission will come to the picture, and the Finance Commission will give the recommendations. And what are the recommendations that are given by the Finance Commission? They will be applicable for the coming 5 years. Just now I told you, the 14th Finance Commission has submitted the report, and the recommendations of the 14th Finance Commission will be implemented from April 1st, 2015. April 1st, 2015, and from that day it will be continued for a period of 5 years. So before the completion of those 5 years, the President will be constituting 15th Finance Commission. And the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission will be again applicable for another 5 years, starting from April 1st, 2020. Like this, there are various finance commissions, they have worked in India. And that Finance Commission, in that Finance Commission, there is a chairman and 4 other members. And everybody is appointed by the President of India. That is the basic idea, right? Next. Next, I'm going to the next one. Look at this. Now, so I'm talking about the judicial powers of the President. Look at this. When it comes to the judicial powers, judiciary is nothing but the court system what we have in India. But the President of India will also exercise some of the judicial powers. What do you mean by this? Let's try to understand. Number one, with respect to the judicial powers, the President will appoint the judges of the Supreme Court and also the High Courts. Of course, that will also include the Chief Justice of India. Meaning any judge in the Supreme Court or any judge in the High Court, everybody is appointed by the President of India. With respect to the High Court judges, so many times there was a question. Who appoints the High Court judges? Kindly remember, the answer is the President of India. Now let me tell you some more points with respect to this. The President, look at this next article, the next point here. The president seeks the advice from the Supreme Court under Article number 143. However, this advice is not binding on the president. What do you mean by this Article 143? Let me tell you certain points here. For example, see here, the government is performing so many activities. Sometimes there may be a confusion for the government, or the government wants to make it more clear with respect to going ahead with the function of the government. For example, here, when I'm talking about Article number 2 and Article number 3 of the Indian Constitution, this is a very, very important point. I'm going to talk to you now. When it comes to Article number 2 and Article number 3, under Article number 2, we have discussed about the admission of the new states. Under Article number 3, we have created the new states. Hope you remember all the points. When it comes to the admission of the new areas into the Indian territory is very much permitted by the Constitution. Then what about giving away Indian territories to some other nation? Example I'm talking about. Is it permitted? It is nowhere mentioned in the Constitution whether India can give away its areas to any other nation or not. But otherwise, there is an area called Berubari in the West Bengal region. And with respect to this Berubari, so there was a Indian government wanted to hand over this area to the Pakistan. Pakistan means it is today's Bangladesh I'm talking about. It was called East Pakistan. So during that time, can you give away, how can you give it, your area to some other country, and as it is not mentioned in the Constitution? During that time, the government of India, through the President of India, requested the Supreme Court to look into this and give a clarification. Meaning, the Constitution is permitting the President of India to seek the advice from the Supreme Court. But why the President will seek? The President will be seeking the advice only on the recommendation of the government. So during that time, the advice was sought and the Supreme Court made it very, very clear during that time. India can give away its territories to some other nation, but for that reason, India must amend its constitution. That's the reason during that time, constitution was amended and the Berubari area was handed over to Pakistan. In the similar manner, today you must be listening about this one, handing over of some of the Indian territories to 17,000 of Indian area, 17,000 acres of Indian territory to Bangladesh. So that is also happening only because of the constitutional amendment. These points I told you in one of the current affairs classes last month. Kindly go through that one if you want. But otherwise, so this is one example where the central government is seeking the advice from the Supreme Court of India, and that will happen only through the President. And this is what is mentioned under Article number 143. And another point is very, very clear. The advice of the Supreme Court is not binding on the President. Meaning, ultimate decision will be taken only by the government. Am I clear? Next. Next one, I'm opening the document once again. Kindly have a look at this. Apart from this, the Constitution has also given certain powers to the President of India, like granting pardon, commutation, remission, respite, and reprieve. So what do you mean by all these things here? So after some time, I'll have a discussion regarding each and every one, but please try to understand some of the points here. What do you mean by this pardon, commutation, remission, respite, and reprieve? These are all mentioned under Article number 72 of the Indian Constitution. Generally, what happens is that if any person commits a crime, the person will be arrested by the police, and the police will be producing the person before the judiciary, and it is the judiciary which should convict the person and sentence the person. Hope you are understanding the whole terminology. I told you the meaning of all the words in the previous classes. So the conviction and sentence will be done only by the judiciary. And we have a very, very large integrated judiciary in India, starting from the lowermost court to the apex court, that is the Supreme Court. But in order to give a better facility to the people, the laws are considered to be very, very flexible in India, where a person, if he is not happy with the judgment that is given by the lowermost court, so he can approach or he can appeal to the higher court. And when it comes to the high court, it gives a judgment. If the person is still not happy, he has every right to approach the apex court of India. And whatever the Supreme Court says, that is considered to be final. That is considered to be final. And at the most, there is a provision for a review petition. So that can also be exercised by the person. But after that, is there any possibility to request somebody to look into this issue? Yes, the Constitution has permitted the President of India to accept the mercy petitions. Once the mercy petition, here I am talking about a situation where the President is interfering into the judiciary system only after the concerned person exhausted with the complete judicial system. Directly approaching the President of India is not permitted. So this is because maybe after all, of course, even in the judiciary also, they are also the human beings. There may be a possibility of the judicial errors. Of course, as far as possible, in every court, they'll be looking into the cases very, very deeply, and they are providing the better judgments. But if the person still has any problem, still he can approach the President of India through a petition called mercy petition. That is the basic idea. Okay. And whenever the mercy petition reaches the President of India, the President may take one of the three decisions. One decision may be either the President is rejecting the mercy petition, meaning whatever the judgment that is given by the Supreme Court will be appealed, or number two, the President may reduce the punishment that is given by the Supreme Court, or the President may cancel the punishment that is given by the Supreme Court. So one of the three things will be taken care by the President of India. But kindly remember, even in this case also, the President is not the person who takes the decision completely on his own. The President will be depending again on the advice of the cabinet. And in general, the Home Ministry will come into the picture. It will provide assistance to the Rashtrapati Bhavan in this case. Okay, this is the basic point here. So when I come to this topic after some time, I'll have a detailed discussion regarding each one. What is pardon, commutation, remission, respite, and reprieve? Each one I'm going to talk to you now after a little while. Now, I'm opening the document. Look at this. So we are talking about the diplomatic powers, the next one. What do you mean by these diplomatic powers? All international treaties are concluded by the President, subject to the approval of the Parliament. And the President represents India in the international forums. And he sends and receives diplomats like ambassadors, high commissioners, and so on. That is the reason why the ambassadors of India in various countries, they are appointed by the President of India. Okay. Now, these are diplomatic powers. Next is the military powers. What do you mean by these military powers? Again, the President is considered to be the supreme commander of the armed forces. When I use the word armed forces, I am talking about Army, Air Force, and Navy. And for each group here, maybe Army, Navy, and Air Force, so we have the three important people at the highest level. So we call them as the Army Chief, Air Marshal, and a Navy Admiral. So at the ground level, these are the people who will be taking care of the defense of India. But the Constitution said that President is the supreme commander of the armed forces. In that capacity, the President will be appointing Army Chief, Air Marshal, and a Navy Admiral. Number one. Number two, in the capacity as the supreme commander of the armed forces, the President is also declaring the war and peace. Sometimes there may be a situation where the demand is that India should declare a war against other country. During that time, the declaration has to be made by the President of India. But again, the decision will be taken by the cabinet, and the cabinet recommends for the war. Only during that time, the President will be acting on the advice of the cabinet. Am I clear? Next, I'm going to the next point. Now, let me open the document. Look at this. So in this capacity, the President is appointing the Army Chief, Navy Admiral, and Air Marshal. We have seen just now. And the President can declare war and peace. And this is subjected to the approval of the Parliament. Okay. Now, when I come to this emergency provisions, we'll be talking about this. Now, let me tell you. So another important one we have, of course, this is mentioned in some other part of the Indian Constitution. In that sequence, we'll have a discussion. But since this power is also associated with the President of India, so we are using the power here. So that is the emergency powers. The Constitution has granted certain emergency powers to the President of India. But what do you mean by these emergency powers? When I say emergency powers here, emergency is a serious situation where the government is expected to focus its attention mostly on that serious issue. Sometimes there may be a war with some other country. So that situation may be considered as an emergency situation. So winning the war, waging the war and winning the war will become the highest priority for the government rather than any other activity. That's the reason during that time, the developmental activities may also be stopped. And whatever the money that you are spending for the developmental activities, the money will be diverted to the war. So during that time, definitely the whole system in the country will be disturbed. And that situation is called the emergency situation. Similarly, we have another situation that is called the state emergency. And most of you know in this particular one, state emergency, as the President's rule. Whenever I am talking about the President's rule, the state government will be suspended and the central government will take the complete controls. That is called the so-called the state emergency. But otherwise, Constitution has permitted democratically elected government should be present at the state level. But I was telling you when I am talking about the sources of the Indian Constitution, though India is a federation, more powers are vested in the central government. I told you during that time, India is a federation with a strong center. This is what we have discussed during that time. That is the reason why if the situations are not under control in any state level because of any reason, I'll tell you all the reasons when I come to that area. During that time, the Constitution has permitted the President of India to declare President's rule in a state. Similarly, we have another emergency that is called financial emergency. When it comes to the financial emergency, it is related to the money. Otherwise, it may be called economic crisis. It is a situation of really seriousness where the government should focus more on the so-called the finances also. Because of some reason, the money may not be there, even to paying the salaries for the employees. That situation may be called the financial emergency. In India, national emergency was imposed and the President's rule was also imposed. But when it comes to the financial emergency, so far it was not imposed. These are all mentioned in the Constitution under article number 352, 356, and also under 360. When I come to that area, I'll have a detailed discussion. But points, kindly remember these points. Now, look at this. So these are the three things I have. Remember these articles, please. Very frequently asked questions in the examination. 352, 356, followed by article 360. Right. See here, I have given in the brackets here. The emergency powers are discussed in detail in emergency provision chapter. So please go through. When we come to that area, we'll have a detailed discussion. Look at this. We have something called veto powers. These are the veto powers of the president. See, what do you mean by this veto powers? When I'm using this word veto powers, this is exclusively related to the a bill once it is introduced in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and it goes to the President of India, and what a decision will be taken by the President of India, that is called the veto powers. Kindly remember, very, very important one. This is the veto powers. I am not talking about anything. I am just talking only with respect to the bills. And that too, these bills are the ordinary bills. And we have seen already certain points. Ordinary bills, once they go to the President of India, President has the right to send them back for reconsideration. But when it comes to money bills and constitution amendment bills, the President cannot send them back for the reconsideration. So in this particular one, I am talking to you only about ordinary bills. Article 111, but what kind is here? I have used the word that is called the veto powers. But the word veto is nowhere mentioned in the Constitution. Depending on the situation, the President may take a decision with respect to any ordinary bill. Depending on the decision taken by the President of India, it may be called one of the veto powers. Either suspensive veto or absolute veto or the pocket veto. So these are the opinions that are given by the experts, but it is not mentioned in the Constitution. But it is very much permitted by the President of India to decide certain things. When it comes to article number 111 of the Indian Constitution, it permitted the President of India. It very much permitted the President of India. Once a bill is passed by both the houses and comes back to the President of India, he may sign the bill. If he signs a bill, that bill will become an act and the process is simple and smooth and the job is over. But the President has every right to send back the bill for reconsideration. We know this point already. Now I'm just repeating here. The President has the right to send back the bill for reconsideration. The power of the President to send back the bill for reconsideration is nothing but the suspensive veto. That's it. We know this point on day number 1 itself, we know, but I am using the word suspensive veto now. Am I clear? But when it comes to article number 111, it permitted the President of India, once a bill comes to the President is expected to give his assent as soon as possible. But what do you mean by as soon as possible? That is not mentioned by the Constitution. That's the reason why the President can take a decision. Either he send back the bill for reconsideration or he can withhold the bill. Depending on the situation, it is called the veto power. The first veto power we have seen, that is a suspensive veto. That is nothing but the power of the President to send back the bill for reconsideration. We have understood this. So now let me open the document again. Again, let me say certain things. Look at this. Under article number 111, look at this. Veto power means this is the authority of the President of India to withhold assent to the bills passed by the Parliament. A bill is introduced in the Parliament after it is passed by both the houses with the assent of the President, and it will become the law or act. Look at this. Under Article number 111 of the Indian Constitution, the President has three alternatives. Look at this. Either he will give assent to the bill, or he will withhold the assent to the bill, or the President may return the bill if it is not money bill or constitutional amendment bill. He may return the bill. If the bill is passed by the Parliament again, with or without amendments, the President must give his assent to the bill. That's a basic idea. Look at this. Another point we have given. The object of conferring this power on the President is to prevent hasty and ill-considered legislation by the Parliament, and also prevent a legislation which may be unconstitutional. Yes, being the head of the nation, being the head of the Constitution, the President of India should protect the Constitution. Sometimes a legislation may be unconstitutional. Constitution is giving opportunity to the President of India to stop it. Now, look at this. Classification of the veto powers. So there are three veto powers. Kindly have a look at this. Just now I told you absolute veto, suspensive veto, and the pocket veto. Now let me tell you what is the meaning of this each one. Look at this. When it comes to absolute veto, it is the power of the President to withhold the assent to a bill passed by the Parliament. Number two, suspensive veto. The President returns the bill for the consideration of the Parliament. But if the bill is passed again by the Parliament with or without amendments, it is obligatory for the President to give his assent to the bill. This is what we have discussed. Meaning the Parliament has the overriding powers on the suspensive veto. And when it comes to the pocket veto, the President neither rejects nor returns the bill, but simply keeps the bill pending for an indefinite period of time. This is what is used by Gnani Jail Singh when he was the President of India. So during that time, Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister and Gnani Jail Singh was the President of India. And the government has passed, the Parliament has passed the postal bill, and the President has refused to give his signature. And that was very much pending with the President for a long period of time. Later, the next President has signed the bill. So that's the reason the experts say that this is the pocket veto that was used by the President of India during that time. Right? Now, the President can exercise pocket veto with respect to state legislations also. What is the meaning? Later we'll come to see some of the state legislations will also come to the President of India for his approval, but the President need not give his assent. Look at this. When a bill is passed by the state legislature and sent to the governor for his consent, under Article 200 of the Constitution, the governor may give his assent or withhold the assent to the bill, or may return the bill for reconsideration, or may reserve the bill for the consideration of the President. But whenever the bill comes to the consideration of the President, what will happen? Under Article number 201, the Constitution of India, under the Constitution of India, the President has three alternatives. Those alternatives are nothing but he may give assent to the bill, or he may withhold the assent to the bill, or he may direct the governor to return the bill for the reconsideration of the state legislature. But important point is that if the bill is passed again with or without amendments and presented again to the President for his assent, the President is not bound to give his assent. It means the state legislatures cannot override the veto power of the President. Very, very important one. The state legislatures cannot override the veto power, but the Parliament has every right to override the suspensive veto power of the President. Am I clear? Now, so let me stop at this stage. Rest of the things we'll discuss tomorrow. But all the people who are attending for public administration, please join me by 7 a.m. Right? So thank you so much. See you tomorrow.